Chapter 4.5, Day 1, Solving Polynomial Equations. You have used the zero product property to solve quadratic equations or functions. You can extend this to solve some higher degree polynomial equations, just like cubic or quartic. So zero product property, again, I'm going to remind you where you put the factors equal to 0 and then you put the factor equal to 0 one by one to solve for x values. Example number 1, solving a polynomial equation by factoring. So we are going to solve this polynomial by factoring. First step is to find the factor that is common monomial if possible. So in this polynomial, you're going to see and look at each term and see if there is any common monomial or any common GCF that you can factor out. So we can see that here the x is common in every term and also 2. So 2x can be a monomial that is common monomial in each term. Once you factor this out, or in other words, divide each term by 2x. So I'm going to do some rough work here. So you have this polynomial and you decide that the 2x is the common monomial. Then you're going to divide each term by 2x because that's a common monomial, common factor that will divide every term. Once the 2x is common outside, you're going to get here 2x common and you're going to get here 2 to cancel. X cubed divided by x is going to give you x square. Next is negative 6x because you're going to divide the 12 x squared by 2x. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. X squared divided by x is x. So the next one is going to give you plus 9 because the x and x cancel. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Now we are going to factor this more to find out the x values. So what I'm going to do is rewrite this factor. So this is these are the two factors. 2x times this quadratic equals to this big polynomial. So now we have already factored the 2x. Now we are going to work on to factor x squared minus 6x plus 9. We have few methods we can apply to do that. One we learned is the cross and a box method. The other one is a quadratic formula and graphing. So here I'm going to use the cross. On the top of the cross, you're going to write down the last term, that is 9. And the middle term goes here. You're looking for two numbers. So you're looking for two numbers here that when you multiply, you get 9. And when you add them, you get negative 6. So those numbers are negative 3, negative 3. So the factors are going to be 2x as it is outside, and this is factored into x minus 3 times x minus 3 equals 0. Now you can put them equal to 0 one by one, or you can just write 2x times x minus 3 square equals 0. So next step is step number 3, that is find the zero product property. Since I have a space here, so I'm going to apply the zero product property here. So zero product property means you're going to put these factor equal to 0 one by one. So 2x equals 0, comma, x minus 3 squared equal to 0. So divide with 2 on both sides, you get x equals 0, and you're going to cancel the square because it's equal to 0. You can just write x minus 3 equal to 0. Plus 3 on both sides, x equals 3. So x equals 3 and x equals 0 are your two zeros or x values. So namely, when we have degree 3, it should have 3 values of x. Now you can see that the square on top of x minus 3 or x minus 3, x minus 3, when you put that equal to 0, you get the x equals 3 two times. So x equals 3 comma x equals 3. It means that the x equals 3 is a repeated root. So this one is a repeated 0 or repeated root. So when we graph this, whenever we graph on graph paper this type of polynomial and it has repeated root, it means it's not going to cross the x-axis at that point. It will touch the 3 and go back. So let's see how we graph. So first we need to decide if it's rising from left to right. So in this case, the a means leading coefficient. So a equals 2, which is greater than 0. So this graph is going to rise from left to right. So left to right is going to rise, and it's going to give us a S shape of a graph because this is a degree 3. Is going to cut at 0. So one of the x-intercept is 0 and one of the x-intercept is 3. So when we graph this, we know that the one of the x-intercept is 0, which is right here, and one of the x-intercept is 3. Since 3 is a repeating root or coming 2 times, and 0 is coming only 1 time. So the graph will cross the 0 because it's single root or single 0. But the graph will touch the 3, it will not cross, it will touch the 3 and go back because 3 is a repeated 0. Is rising from left to right because a is greater than 0. It is a S-shaped graph because its degree is 3, 5 or 7. It means it's a S shape of a graph. You try problem number 1 for example number 1. To solve for 4x to the 4 minus 40x squared plus 36 equals 0 for x value, your first step is to find the common monomial or the GCF. So the common monomial or the GCF is going to be 4, and you're going to rewrite the equation and divide it by 4 and factor that number out. So you're dividing it by 4, and what you get inside is x to the 4 minus 10x squared plus 9 equals 0. Now we are going to solve for this quartic polynomial by using cross method. So we are going to use the cross method here. On the top of the cross, you're going to write the last number, that is 9. And on the bottom, you're going to write negative 10. You're looking for two numbers. When you multiply, you get 9. And when you add them, you get negative 10. So those two numbers are going to be negative 1 and negative 9. When you multiply, you get 9. When you add them, you get negative 10. You're going to write the 4, that this number as it is. And the two factors you're going to get are x squared minus 1 times x squared minus 9 equals 0. You're going to apply here the difference of square formula. I'm just going to remind you this difference of square formula is a squared minus b squared equals a minus b times a plus b. So which means that on the first factor, you're going to write x minus 1 times x plus 1. For the second factor, you can think like x square minus 3 square. So x square minus 3 square, which would be x minus 3 times x plus 3. So this is going to be x minus 3 times x plus 3 equals 0. You divide the 4 on each side. The 4 and 4 cancel. And then the factor you're left with x plus 1, x minus 1, x minus 3, x plus 3 equals 0. Here we are going to apply zero product property. Zero product property means that you're putting all the factors equal to 0 one by one and get 4 different x values. And those are the values are x-intercept. X equals 1, x equals negative 1, x equals 3, and x equals negative 3. These x values are called x-intercepts or zeros or x-intercept. Now we are going to graph this, although in example number 1 is not asking for us to graph, but we have x-intercepts already. We need to find what type of graph this is going to be. So this is A, which is a leading coefficient, is 4. So this is going to be equals to 4. That's greater than 0. And if the degree or the exponent is 4, that means the graph is going to be either a W-shaped graph facing up or a U-shaped graph. The shape of the graph depends on the degree. So it's going to face up of the graph. If the degree is 4, 6, 2, it means that it's either W or U-shaped graph. The leading coefficient is greater than 0. It means it's going to face up. Now we are going to graph depending on where it cuts on x-axis. So the x-intercept we have are negative 3, negative 1, 1, and 3. So we have x-intercepts already. And if you pay attention, the y-intercept is already there as well. Y-intercept is that number where x is 0. So for example, if you put x as 0, so this term becomes 0. If you put x is 0 here, this term becomes 0. And you're left with the number 36. 36 is going to be your y-intercept. Y-intercept where the graph cuts at y-axis. We already decide that this is going to be a W-shaped graph because it's degree 4. And it's facing up because the leading coefficient is positive. It's going to cross the graph at negative 3, and then 1, negative 1. And then it's going to cut y-axis at 36, and then it's going to cut at 1, and then 3. So the graph of this one looks like starting from upside is going to cross at negative 1. Then it's going to touch the y-axis at 36, cross at 1, and cross at 3. And it's going to be a W-shaped graph facing upward. I'm going to use number 2 as an example to find the x value. Again, I'm not going to graph this because it's not asking us to graph, but I'm going to solve for x value. To solve this problem for x, you need to bring every term to one side of an equal sign. So you're going to subtract 14x cubed on both sides. So subtract 14x cubed, you get 2x to the power 5 minus 14x cubed plus 24x equals 0. You can get the common GCF, so that's going to be 2x. So divide the whole equation by 2x. Factor the 2x out. You're going to get x to the 4 minus 7x squared plus 12 equals 0. You're going to use the cross method. The top number is 12, that's the last number, and bottom is negative 7. You're looking for two numbers. When you multiply, you get 12, and when you add them, you get negative 7. So those numbers are negative 4 and negative 3. This 2x will be as it is outside, and the factors are going to be x squared minus 4 times x squared minus 3 equals 0. For this factor, you can apply the difference of square formula, that is x minus 2 times x plus 2. The 2x remain as it is again, and this is x minus 2 x plus 2. This would not be qualified for difference of square because this is a square but 3 is not a square. So not a difference of square, so this will remain as is. X squared minus 3 equals 0. Now put them equal to 0 one by one. So 2x equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, x squared minus 3 equals 0, and find the x value. Divide with 2. For the first one, you get x equals 0. The second one, you got x equals 2, x equals negative 2. And then the last one, when you say x squared equals 3, then you have to further solve it by taking square root. And when you take square root on both sides, you get square root of x squared equals plus or minus square root of 3. Square and square root cancel. So the x value came out as plus or minus square root 3. So the values that you got for x are, there are 5 values of x. You got x equals 0, x equals 2, x equals negative 2, and x equals to positive square root 3, and x equals negative square root 3. So there are 5 values, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Because it's a degree 5, so you got 5 values for x.